The Final Four of the 2024 Australian Open. It's finally here. But it was here all along, right on these pages. I had it. Top half of the draw, Novak Djokovic, predicted by me to be facing unique Yannick Sinner. Bottom half of the draw, Danny Medvedev, predicted by me to be facing in the semifinals on the bottom half of the draw, Sasha Alexander Zverev. It was here. I had it all along. But why did I cave? Why did I cave to the pressure, to the hype, to switch my prediction to Carlitos Alcaraz? Gott in Himmel, what was I thinking? Was ist falsch mit dir?
You're a bad man. You're a very bad man.
Anyways, it's still going to be a good show. I'm happy. I'm cool. Mr. Goat has informed me that he has plenty of comments mocking me, ridiculing me, making fun of me caving under the pressure, caving from the hype around Carlos Alcaraz to switch my prediction. I should have stuck with my instincts. But it's okay. We're still going to have a good show. I'm not going to let it ruin anything for me. I just need a sip of the Le Grand Vin, Le Bordeaux Supérieur. The official Francais tasting method right there. Anyways, how did all this happen? What happened to Alcaraz? Let's go into it. Let's dive in. There's your Final Four. Beautiful men. First, before we say anything critical about Carlos Alcaraz, let's talk about how great Sasha Zverev was. And Zverev has been a man on a mission. Just think, less than 2 years ago, he was this close to beating Rafa Nadal. All right, comment below that, Matt, he was never going to beat Rafa. Zverev said it himself. You know, he said, I could have lost to Rafa because he won 1,000 times at the Roland Garros. But he said, I was this close to world number one. And to go down and be out of the sport for 6 months, to come back, when your ankles you have to have surgery on your ankle. You can't train your body. You're definitely not on a tennis court hitting any balls. I mean, remember Dominic Thiem? He was hitting left-handed. He was so desperate to get back out there and play tennis, but his right wrist, it wouldn't let him play. So he had to go out there and hit left-handed just so he could hit any balls at all. That must have been hard. So for Zverev to go through all that, this close, I think he could have beat Rafa. As a Rafa fan, I was very nervous during that match. I was afraid for Rafa. I was very worried Zverev was going to win it. So close. If he had beat Rafa there, he would have become an instant legend of the sport, taking Rafa down when Rafa was playing very well on the clay. Anyways, let's look at how incredible he played. This guy is a man on a mission. Every time I filled out one of these at a tournament last year for Coffee Break Tennis, I was putting Zverev further and further ahead as the year went on because he is back. He's a man on a mission. He's competing for the biggest tournaments in our sport again. I think he can do it. I always thought, well, I shouldn't say always. In the early days, I made fun of Zverev just like I mock many young players today. But for a long time, I thought he had a very good chance at grabbing at least a major. Like Medvedev. Surely he could grab a couple. It looks like he is back on that mission. Take a look at these stats. I don't care if you're Alcaraz. I don't care if you're Djokovic. I was thinking this while I was watching the match. I heard Chris Eubanks say it. Then later, long after the match was over, I saw a clip of Kyrgios saying. I didn't hear the broadcast he was on, but ESPN I was watching, and I heard Chris Eubanks say it. If Zverev serves like this, I think he could win. He could win the Australian Open. He could beat everyone left. However, I offer a slight caveat. If anyone were to stop him serving like this, it would be the greatest returner of all time, Novak Djokovic, or his slightly larger clone, Danny Medvedev, who's also one of the greatest returners of all time. Anyways, 93% first serves going in. This is, about halfway through the first set. First serve points 1, 11 out of 13. Break points 1, that's not important. 1 out of 1, it's perfect, but he would break more, obviously, winning 6-1 in the first set. Net points 1, 6 out of 6. By the end of the set, those numbers were about the same. They just, got better in the points 1. Look at the net, 7 out of 7. Break points 1, 2 out of 2. 89% first serves going in. Now, in my level, my league, we call them lollipops, weak serves. If you tell your doubles partner, okay, this guy's got a lollipop second serve, that means green light go. Abuse this guy's second serve. Sasha Zverev is not hitting lollipops. First serve going in 89% of the time. Very, very big serves. Who can serve that hard? I mean, he was serving like Hooby Dooby or John Isner, except he's much better at every other aspect of the game than they are. Anyways, almost winning 100% of the first serves, almost getting 100% of them in. Look at this. So this is more important. We looked at a stat like this earlier of Novak Djokovic. It is a big part of how he has continued and sustained his excellence and had so much success, winning nearly everything Djokovic has been doing for years. 86% of the first serve points won, but look at the spots. Hitting that green zone, which is about 3 feet from the line, 87% of the time on both sides. This stayed exactly the same. Let's look at Djokovic's, by the way. This is from earlier in the tournament. Almost the same exact numbers, 1% better in the ad court than Novak Djokovic. 53% unreturned for Novak. I'm sure I'd like to see the number on unreturned for Zverev. I'm sure it's pretty good as well. Anyways, we know Zverev is a great server, minus a few years ago when he kept hitting all those double faults. But we know he's a great server. Always had a great first serve. Second serve is pretty great too now. We think of Zverev and we think of that backhand, you know? It's like Djokovic or Medvedev. It's right up there with the best backhands in the world. Sinner too. It's funny, the 4 best backhands are in our Final Four here. But the forehand has always been a spot you could target and maybe get it to fall apart a little bit on Zverev. But look at these numbers. Rounds 1 through 4, he's averaging 77 miles per hour, bringing an extra 5 miles an hour on your average. That's huge to do it against Alcaraz. I mean, Zverev literally, he did everything. He played perfectly, so we can't fault Alcaritos too much. And like I said, I think Zverev is a man on a mission. Let's go to this. Another excellent question from your stupid tennis media. Go!
Commiserations. How do you process that? Because after slipping 2 sets to love down, you produced some incredible tennis towards the end of the third set. And how do you process the fact that from there you didn't go on to win?
Sorry, say that again, please.
Say that again. What is that nonsense?
Commiserations, Carlos. But how do you process this? How do you process this? You were playing well, it seemed rather well. The crowd seemed to like it. Then you were playing rather shit. How does it make you feel? How do you process this? Tell us the process, Carlos.
Having got to that level and then dipping again.
I wish it was Andy Roddick. Well, I wish Andy Roddick was answering. Could you imagine what he would say to this guy?
Yeah, I mean,
Carlos is too nice. He's too nice. We don't deserve him.
I'm glad to end in the third set playing great tennis. Then at the beginning of the fourth set,
dude, after getting blown away like that, to play as good as he did in the third set,
at this level,
even though
it was a pity.
I should point out those serve numbers I showed you, set 1 and 2 that applied, it dropped to like 62%. In the third set, Zverev wasn't hitting his spots anymore. Sorry to talk over Carlos.
And stay on the match, but I think I had chances, in the 4-3 in the fourth set. I didn't take it, that's. I think I play a good tennis in the fourth set.
God, I feel like I'm gonna cry.
Not my best level, but
I'm not even joking.
It was a good one. Didn't make my chances.
I can't listen anymore. It's making me sad. I can't explain it. Maybe I'm getting old. Maybe I'm getting too emotional. Anyways, like I said, I was sorry to talk over Alcaraz, but those numbers did come down to help him, right? Zverev's hitting 86% of the time in those magic Federer Djokovic spots in the serve box. They're just wonderful spots. But then in the third set, those numbers dropped down to like 62%. So that did make a little bit of opening. When you're getting someone's coming at you like that hard, to be able to turn it around and win that set, lots of credit to Carlos. I love Carlos, but let's go down a little bit. And look at this comment here. This is what kind of makes me sad, because I think this is very true. Look at this comment. We won't identify this person. We don't know. We only know it's D. Maybe it stands for Djokovic. The media put so much pressure on this guy just because they hate Nole. I don't think that's 100% true. I don't think that really captures the whole thing. But I think it's true enough. So many people put all their eggs in the Alcaraz basket, especially after Wimbledon. After that French Open too, he's so close to beating Djokovic there, and then he got cramped out or whatever his injury was. I can't remember now. But yeah, the media put so much pressure on this guy just because they hate Nole. If Carlos doesn't have a good French Open, and then he goes to Wimbledon as the defending champion, and he's not having results, I really worry for this guy. We often talk about the sophomore slump. Well, after what Carlos did last year, you wouldn't think, and obviously that wasn't his freshman year. He'd had, good results before last year. But if we go into like the ultimate sophomore slump after such a high of last year, if Alcaraz can't get the results, it's going to be really hard on him mentally. And I just hope he can turn it around, because I think tennis needs this guy to do well. He's awesome. And I don't want him to beat Djokovic at Wimbledon this year or the French Open. I want to see Djokovic keep winning a little bit longer. But I hope that Carlos is going to be okay because we need him to be winning in the long run to keep this sport healthy and keep people coming in to see these great legends. Welcome to Coffee Break Tennis. I'm your host, Matt Bradshaw. Super duper happy to be here with you. We are brought to you, sponsored by Crunch Time Coaching, headed up by the tennis teaching guru and genius, Peter Tennis Freeman. Without Peter Freeman, I very likely would have never started this channel. In fact, he told me that I should do it. And he got me started and gave me the confidence to try doing a show like this. So lots of thanks to him. And if you want to help the show, I've seen a lot of comments lately. Matt, set up a Patreon. Well, we already have a Patreon. I don't talk about it enough. In the description below, I'll put a link to my Patreon. Please go there if you want to help us out. If you really want to help us out, when Cincinnati comes around that time, I'll give you guys a link to a website. Come to the Crunch Time Tennis Masters Clinic in Cincinnati. 10 indoor courts that we have access to. Well, usually we get 5 at a time. Anyways, indoor tennis courts right next to where the Masters tournament is. Me and Peter Freeman will be there to train you with 20 other totally obsessed tennis-playing addicts. If you play tennis and you love tennis, you want to help Coffee Break Tennis out, come to the Crunch Time Tennis Clinic in Cincinnati right around the time that the tournament is. We start just before it kicks off, and we have sometimes we've done 3. I think we'll be doing 2 weekend clinics this next time, right in the beginning of the tournament and in time for the end of the tournament. It is such a blast. Me and Pete will be there. There are beautiful Serbian women who are there helping us train the campers. There's also, hey, if you like the sexy guys, we've got Santi from South America, Argentina, I think he's from. And then we have Mateo from España. It's also very good tennis players there. Me and Pete can't do it by ourselves. There's usually 20 people there. So we need these young tennis players. They're about in their mid-20s. They'd played college tennis. They're training at the club. They're working at the club, teaching at the club, and they help me and Pete do what is probably the best tennis clinic in the world. Anyways, if you don't like looking at me and Pete, you can look at those young and beautiful tennis pros that we have helping us there. So anyways, let's move on to the show today. I got a comment for you. This is from Jock Sob. Dr. Matt, this is not the only person to call me a doctor. I guess I'm a tennis doctor now. I'll take it. Den Odston Matt, do you think that Alcaraz hits the balls too hard, like his life depends on it, and he wears himself down a lot with every shot? Honestly, I don't even like how much muscle he has put on. He looks more like a bodybuilder than a tennis player, and I don't remember that Carlitos has ever served worse than in this match. But kudos to Zverev, a well-deserved victory, and finally a mental victory for him. Yeah. Can't say enough about how good Zverev was. I wouldn't be shocked if Zverev played like that and found a way to beat the Joker. I'd say the big difference is the Joker wouldn't have got broken at 4-all in that 4th set. Not the Australian Open, not in best of 5. Carlos has got a lot of time. He's young. All these experiences. I think they should make him stronger. But like I said, with all that pressure from the media, I worry about him a little bit. Anytime you see someone put on a ton of muscles, I mean, even Rafa looked like he had the guns going for a while, and even that got like a little bit smaller. You really don't want bulk in tennis. Every now and then I play some guys with big muscles, and they typically lose. What else did he say on here? Yeah, I don't know if it's like it's wearing him out. I think he's in great shape. He's got a lot of energy. I think what it is maybe he should have took a little pace off the ball just to get some rhythm and get the ball in. Maybe he's making too many errors. So maybe take some pace off the ball because of that. Even the great Roger Federer once said that when he is missing, he stays loose, he swings through the ball, lets that arm release that arm. But he said he'll slow down the swing speed. He'll try to cut it in half. Swing about half speed and just focus on taking the ball up front, keeping your eye there. Being loose. That's really what you need when you're struggling. Let's move on. Take a look at these stats. First off, let me just say, I love Medvedev. I love his interviews. I love everything about Medvedev. And Hooby Dooby, he beat Roger Federer at his last Wimbledon. We'll never forgive him. And I didn't know. I've been picking against Hooby because I'm bitter. And I've been right. This is the first time, I didn't realize, since 2021 Wimbledon, I think it was 2021, Hooby has not been past the 4th round of a major. That was the quarterfinals where he beat Roger. He went to the semis. He lose to Kyrgios, maybe? Can't remember who he played next. Kyrgios was in the final that year, though. I think that was when 2021. Wasn't that when Kyrgios lost to Djokovic in the final? Anyways, it doesn't matter. We don't like Hubie here because of that. And also, I forget about all that. I don't have a lot of faith in Hubie mentally. Well, Hubie pulled a Federer. And Medvedev, he's the closest thing we have to Djokovic. He pulled a Djokovic. Look at these freaking stats. More aces. Less double faults. Half. Medvedev with double-digit double faults. 64% first serve in. 81 win. 53 on second win. He's beating, 12% on the second serve numbers. Fastest serve, he got him. Average serve speed, he got him. Second serve speed, he got him by a considerable amount. Look at this. More winners. Less errors, but still, if we do the math, Medvedev's 43 winners on 42 on forced errors. He's +1. Hubie Doobie got his doobie smoked by Medvedev last night. 61 winners on 55 on forced errors. He's +6. 2 return winners to the second greatest returner on tour right now behind Djokovic. 0 return winners. Points won. This is where it really made me think of that Wimbledon 2019 with Federer and Djokovic. The guy won almost 10 more points. He won more total points, and he still lost. Hubie, I told you, I don't trust him mentally. And I loved when Medvedev came out. This guy's been returning from the wall for years now. And he stepped up to the line. I'm sorry, Mr. Goat lost the stats. I did my job. I held up my end of the bargain. I took pictures of it. And Mr. Goat, the talking tennis cat, who it is freezing here. I have a shirt under this beautiful Roger shirt because it is so cold here. He's upstairs hibernating. He didn't do his end of the bargain, Mr. Goat. He didn't put him in, so I don't have the pictures for you. But trust me, imagine this is the baseline. Here's Medvedev returning all tournament. Against Hubie Doobie, he went here. And he got a break in like the first game. Now, he got broken back, but I think it worked out when he took that first set in the tiebreak. That was key if you win a best of 5 sets match. It's very helpful to win the first set. Anyways, incredible. Sometimes you don't have to have the prettiest tennis. I mean, there was a few. God, Medvedev can hit some of the ugliest shots. He hit some balls where it was like he follow through was like that. Sometimes I'll tell people like, all right, you're learning tennis, you're getting better. It's so important you follow through and catch your finish and stay loose. That's number one. Now, as you get better, start getting that wrist real loose and rolling it. Add some topspin, get a little bit of that. But I always tell people that I teach lessons, don't roll it and stop here, right? You still need to follow through. Roll it with your wrist and still finish with the catch over here. I don't know how many times I saw Medvedev last night just go like, He'd either like finish it right there or he'd finish it like that. Like almost like a Rafa, but not quite. The guy's incredible. Anyways, talk about winning ugly. Credit to Medvedev. Does he have enough left? I mean, Zverev and him have put in so many hours now. I think this is another reason. Mary Jo Fernandez. Thanks a lot, Mary Jo. She said, it's typically not these players you see at the top of the list of how many hours you spent on court throughout the tournament. Typically, they're not the people winning it. And that was another reason why I went and changed my pick to Alcaraz. Anyways, so dumb. Let's move on. Okay, here it is. Right now.
I don't know. Different players and pundits are saying different things about
what
they
talk
think of the
conditions, court conditions. How's it playing? Some people were commenting and criticizing the stats I put up because they were old.
But it's very tough to say because the balls are very strange, and then I go to explain it. They tried, I heard, to make it more to last longer. I think they didn't really manage to do it, but what happens now when the balls are new, they are extremely fast. So then the court seems fast because they are like extremely fast. It's bullets. If you touch it a little bit too much, goes in the fence.
Yeah, don't touch it too much. Do that.
And then if you serve well, couple of games, then maybe in 3-4 games they become older. But if you play against someone who plays rallies, I think you do maybe.
Wow,
so
you're in such great shape. But I
a commercial.
haven't seen you in the gym for ages. Thanks. I actually don't go to the gym.
What does she do?
I'd say 6-7 shots, they're done. And it's a new story, and you play long. You're not going to hit the winner.
You're playing a Rafa-like character.
You're going to have to stay
the ball's
for a
dying
long rally.
Very fast.
And so the court itself, I don't really know. I think it's pretty fast. I
told you guys it's a fast court.
Just there is such a big difference with new balls and after 2-3 games. And I remember watching Thompson
this is hilarious.
And then I see like Juice, like 50-shot rally, and seems like they cannot hit the ball. So I say to my coach straight, wait, let's count the games. It was exactly before the new balls. And I was looking on TV, and they were like, it was almost funny to watch. You could see that no chance one is going to make a winner. It's going to be an error from someone. So, yeah. That's my answer.
All right, and then here's another factor. Let's look at the weather report. Now, let's go to the weather report. I heard earlier, I don't know if it was Medvedev, somebody was talking about the conditions. They said that the balls, when it got hot, the hot weather, the balls were not fluffing up as much. I guess there was less moisture in the air. I don't know what it was, but in the cooler conditions, a little bit more humidity maybe, the balls were fluffing up a little faster. That's another factor. So let's look. The weather was still very warm today, I mean, during this match. And Medvedev said the balls were still dying. Maybe he's talking about when he saw, people rallying and really killing those balls. Maybe also the weather, the conditions were a little bit of a factor. Those poor women tonight, they're going to have to play with rainy conditions, so it's going to be humid. Those balls are going to fluff up and get deader faster. That sucks for them. Friday, men's semifinals. Conditions are pretty cool. 71 high. I don't know what it is for Europeans with Celsius, but here 71 is what most people set their air conditioning to. That's a very comfortable temperature. 55 is a little bit cold, but not really. It's not too bad. Women's final heats up, and then Sunday, the finals, they're just right, I'd say. Heats up. The conditions will be a little faster at 75 degrees Fahrenheit. But it won't be so hot that it's like brutal like you see with 87. I think it was 90 the day before that when Djokovic played and had kind of a hard time at first with Fritz, and partially not just because Fritz was serving well, but also because of the conditions. Anyway, so I think that's a good thing for Sunday, our final. They're going to be pretty nice conditions, and it's not so cool that it's going to make the ball play really slow. But like Medvedev said, this court is fast. When the balls get a little bit beat up, it's going to be slow. I think from this point on, these guys can rally for so long, right? Djokovic is going to make Sinner play for so long. I think the balls are going to get destroyed. They're going to be super fluffed up, and it's going to suck on Friday. Let's look at Tennis TV on Instagram. Djokovic and Sinner. Now, Djokovic plays a great point here. This is something Sinner brings to the table in the matchup. Let's talk about the match tomorrow, Djokovic and Sinner. I'm having a hard time picking this one. I'm going to go, all right, that's a pretty good approach. This is something you see Djokovic do to people. Right, Medvedev has a lot in common with Djokovic. So does Sinner. Maybe even closer to a Joker clone. Here's another one. That was just a bad shot. That highlight means nothing. And this is how it ended, if you'll remember. Joker had his chances to get back into this. But that was the round robin. What did Djokovic do when it really mattered and we get to the finals? It's a good rally we got going here. And Joker just takes it to another level that no one can take it to besides him. There you go.
Great.
And I remember, this was my takeaway. The volley wasn't good enough. He overclosed on the net, but the Joker just didn't miss and lifted the level when it mattered most. My prediction is Djokovic goes to the final. Medvedev has won 5 out of the last 6 meetings with Zverev, but Zverev made a good point in his press conference. He said, I was on the injury trail, comeback trail from the injury. Medvedev's playing some of the best tennis of his life in a lot of those matches. It's going to be a different match. I think it is. It's really hard for me to pick that one. I'm leaning towards Zverev, but Medvedev's my guy. I'm going to stick with my guns, stick with my instincts from the beginning. I think we get a Djokovic-Medvedev final, but I think we're going to have 2 brutal matches. Sinner, question mark. Is he going to cramp up? I've seen it happen at Wimbledon. I think last year even at Rotterdam against Medvedev. Sinner looked really good, won that first set. And then he looked like, the intensity was too much, and he was having issues with his legs again. I saw one comment. Someone said that, Matt, I told you years ago, this guy walks around like a giraffe. He's got a weird gait, maybe some kind of genetic issue. I don't know, some kind of genetic defect, I guess. I don't know about that. I don't put a whole bunch of stock in that, but maybe his legs are too skinny. I don't know what it is, but I always see this guy when he plays the best players in the world and it's high intensity matches for a long time. He tends to cramp or something. He loses his legs. I'm going to be watching for that if we're in a 4th set, in a 4th or 5th set in a brutal match with Djokovic, and it's going to be brutal. Joker, Sinner, Medvedev said earlier when he was young he played Djokovic for the first time, and I think he won the first set. And he said, then he started cramping and his body wasn't ready. His diet wasn't right. He didn't do all the, this time in the gym that he needed to. He wasn't serious about his career yet. Now he is. He said, though, one thing he took away from that match was that he realized he could make Djokovic miserable. I can't remember the exact words he said, but put him through hell, make him miserable. He could hurt him, right? He could drag him around in brutal long rallies, and that was a good takeaway. Even though he lost, he said, okay, well, I've got the game where I can make Djokovic suffer out there. And Sinner can make Djokovic suffer. I think Djokovic is going to make Sinner suffer a whole lot more. You saw in that first highlight, Sinner's going to be able to do a lot of things that make Djokovic great. But one big thing is what we were looking at with Zverev. What about those serving stats? Sinner's been serving a lot better. I'm sure that's part of why he was able to beat him at Davis Cup. To me, the Davis Cup is very low on the priority list. I know Djokovic wants to win for Serbia, but low on the priority list. The round robin, he beat him there. Not as important. He beat him in doubles. Okay, that doesn't mean anything. Throw that out. In the final, that's the one you got to compare it to, because that's the serious match for Djokovic. And this is even more serious than the ATP finals. Anyways, let's listen to our old friend, Fritzy boy, our new friend, I should say. I have a newfound respect for Fritzy, even for his girlfriend, Morgan Riddle, who's making a business out of being the girlfriend of a tennis player. Let's listen to what he has to say. Why is Djokovic the greatest of all time?
Is it kind of...
From Joe Cornole Media, one of my favorite YouTube channels.
To win points, games, much less sets and matches from Novak. I mean, can you describe?
Why is this so hard? Describe it. Come on, Fritzy, tell us.
Why it's so much tougher, seemingly, than against anyone else.
Tell this nice media guy with the very mousy voice.
The biggest things is like just the fact that, well, I mean, he's so fast. He doesn't really miss a lot of balls, so like he definitely makes you like really work and like hit quality shots to win points. But it's also just like the lack of just free points he gives you, and that's also why we're playing so like the first two sets are so long as well. It's like I never just hit a second serve and he just misses it. Like it just doesn't happen. Like even when I'm like going after my second serve, like hitting second serves that are like consistently like 100, 105 miles per hour,
hitting good spots,
jamming him, he still just like puts it on the baseline. So puts
it on the baseline.
It's definitely tough when you don't get those free points. You kind of just have to like work for every single point.
John, you said the first 15 break points that you faced.
Skip that one. All right, here's another.
It's possible.
Is Djokovic getting worse at all? Is he losing a step?
Do you see any signs that Novak is like showing any kind of weaknesses? He's getting maybe a little bit slower, maybe hitting the ball not that hard.
No.
Or is there
I love that response from Taylor.
No, I mean, as
Taylor's a good interview.
I can recall from the first times we've played, he's
very honest, high tennis
I think
IQ.
He's just as good as ever.
I think Taylor's a lot smarter than I gave him credit for.
Year and maybe even a year ahead of that, there's talk about
Sam Hill just return it.
Okay.
Having to
skip that,
like work incredibly hard for every single point on my serve, and then turn around and have to do it returning as well.
Listen to this.
I really needed my serve to go for me in the third and the fourth, and I just had some games where even if I'd make first serves, but the spots on the serves would be awful, and it can't be like that against Sam Hill. Just return it.
Anyways, he'd go on to say that it's so much work to hold serve. Eventually, he couldn't keep up with the Joker anymore. A guy played one of the best matches of his life, and he goes down. He goes down pretty easy. The one before that, I love that. The guy can't even finish the question, and Taylor starts laughing, and then the guy gets to the point of his question, is anything about Djokovic's game losing some quality as he's getting older? You've been playing a guy for 5 years now. He's getting closer to age 40. Is he losing a little speed? And, Fritzy was already laughing. Then he heard the thing about getting a little slower, and he said no. Right away, just said no. And then it sounded like in that answer, he was almost going to say that that Joker's getting better. And that's what I would say. I think, surely hearing that from Fritz, though, I don't know now. I would think Joker can't be the exact same speed that he used to be. He's got to be like 1% slower. 1.7% slower, but the spot serving is better than ever, and I would take that in a trade. It's like, I think of video games, I used to play when I was younger. It was funny listening to Kyrgios in the commentary booth talking about what everyone's favorite games are. He's talking about, Taylor Fritz loves League of Legends. I never played that game, but he said that Taylor Fritz loves that. They asked Kyrgios, what's your video game of choice? He said Call of Duty. That was my video game of choice. But I remember games when I was younger playing games where they give you points. And it's like, do you want strength? Do you want dexterity? Do you want speed? Do you want vitality? You want all these different things. And you got to try to build the perfect warrior so that you can win in a game. And if I'm Djokovic, I'll take a little drop in speed for the boost in the serving accuracy, because that is a huge thing. What was the first thing? Oh, where he was saying, what makes it so hard to beat Joker? And Fritz said, just the fact that he's so fast, he gets to everything. This is a guy that takes your best shots. You're playing some of your best tennis, and it comes back, and it doesn't just come back, it comes back deep. Like he said, I'm hitting some of my best second serves. I'm jamming the dude, hitting 105 miles per hour right in the body. He's jammed, but he manages to block the thing back all the way to the baseline. I mean, who can do that? Medvedev is probably the closest thing. Sinner, a lot of similarities there, but I think Medvedev better at returning than Sinner. Serve is going to be huge in this match tomorrow for Djokovic, and I think that's a major edge. Sinner's serving better. We'll see how good he hits the spots. I haven't seen any stats about him hitting spots like that. Maybe he is, but we'll find out a lot tomorrow. Just like we learned a lot about Carlos, and I think what we learned from Carlos today is a lot of pressure's on him. He's doing good enough for me. I think he's going to be okay, but the Australian Open is not going to be his best tournament. That's for sure. All right, listen to this. They tried to get Djokovic with a question. Dirty tricks. The media is always up to it.
Can I ask you a scheduling question that's potentially
scheduling? It's always these British guys
tonight. So is it, even it could be a possible advantage for you, is it fair from a sporting integrity point of view for the tournament? And what further changes, what do you think should be done?
What kind of advantage will I have? I mean, we have 2 days, so it's not much of an advantage I see that I see there. I mean, we're playing semifinals on Friday, so plenty of time for whoever wins that match tonight to recover.
There's guys playing two semifinals are playing the next day. Right?
We talked about it, I think, a few matches ago. I talked about it on the press conference, and
he'd been asked about this before.
Because it's really up to Grand Slams and our respective tours to think about the ways to accommodate both male and female players in a proper way, so we have no late finishes. I think ATP came up with this rule change, but that's on ATP Tour. Grand Slams are not part of the ATP Tour, so they have their separate.
Is that why they're asking all these questions?
Rules and regulations that obviously are independent from our tours, and we know that there are 2 sessions, right? So if you are scheduling 2 matches starting at 12 with men playing best
I've had enough
of 5.
of that. I'll just say this. First off, they asked him if it's unfair that he has some kind of advantage because he was the first one to play before the semifinals on Friday. Well, first off, all those guys had to play the next day, right? Whether it was going to be Medvedev or Hubie Doobie or Zverev or Alcaraz coming through, they're getting way less time to prepare for the semifinals and rest because they're coming the next day. He's asked him, is this an advantage because you're playing before the, Sinner and Rublev at the night match, and they're going to go late. They've gone late like every night. Every night they've gone past midnight, and that was their goal, not to do that anymore. It's impossible. And Djokovic was getting into that. He's saying, I don't know what we're going to do. You want to have less matches? Because then that gets into the problem that they don't want to talk about. And that's the fact that they want to put women's tennis, they want to showcase women's tennis, even though men's tennis is bringing in most of the money, right? Most of the people want to see that Djokovic match. A Sabalenka, I think a lot of people want to see the Sabalenka match. When they had Serena, sometimes the Serena match was going to sell more tickets than a lot of the men's matches. They don't have that right now. Right now, they have a rotating carousel of a bunch of women that most people who are fans of tennis have never heard of, right? We have no consistent winners. Maybe Coco is going to be able to stay consistent. That'd be good for the WTA. And Sabalenka is really the only thing we got here now, right? It's not just because she's got the dance moves that I put her in that clip last time. She's a champ. She's a winner. She's got it. People want to see that. People like people who win. It's as simple as that. So they're asking Djokovic about, how are they going to fix this? And Djokovic, he's trying to be very politically correct about it, I guess you could say, very polite about it. man, after drinking this wine, it's a little harder to make some of my points, especially when we get into this stuff, a little more complicated stuff to talk about. But anyway, so Djokovic is saying, like, maybe you're going to have to put less matches. Maybe you could do all in one session, but that's not going to work. They got to sell day and night sessions. That's where they make the majority of their money. Those are the most expensive tickets. It's not the ground passes that make them money, even though they boosted those numbers a lot this year. It's these center court tickets. Those are the most expensive tickets. So Djokovic is right. They're not going to get rid of that. Let's go to this comment. You were wrong. Mr. Goat, I said I didn't want any of these. You were wrong. Carlos actually blushed. I felt sorry for him. You were close, but he couldn't make it to 5. And here's the bottom. When Alcaraz was asked the WTA question, the crowd laughed because they know the WTA is a big joke, and you know it as well. Well, the truth is, the WTA is not a joke. The WTA is the most successful women's sport in the world of all time. No women's sport has made as much money as women's tennis. Women's tennis is a huge success, and that's why it is a tragedy. We're going to get out of here, so hit the music. It is an absolute tragedy that so many people inside tennis, right? Some of the people, not like commentators, players, they're one and the same usually. A lot of commentators are players. People that love the sport really understand the sport. Some of the people on the corporate side of big tennis, and definitely some of the people in the media, they have a different agenda. I feel like, and I got this vibe the few times I've been in the press rooms and tournaments. I've had press passes before. A lot of people there are not there for helping tennis be a success, for spreading tennis because they love tennis. A lot of people are there with political things in mind. And one thing that I can't stand is that they want to get rid of the best thing in tennis, and that's best out of 5-set men's matches. They absolutely want the equal pay, which I'm fine with. The equal pay, there's nothing wrong with that. But they want to have no excuse for people saying, oh, the men work harder. To me, that's never been a big one. They asked Rafa Nadal about this one time, and he said, is it fair that the men's in some tournaments, and the majority of the tournaments, they make the same now. In some tournaments, the men make more. Well, Rafa said the men are selling a lot more tickets in some cases. I know it's not always the case. Like I said before, Serena, obviously Chris Evert and Martina Navratilovan's rivalry was like Roger and Rafa, or Joker and Rafa. That was outselling men's tennis for many years, I'm sure. But the bottom line is this. Right now, the men are selling way more tickets than the women. And as Rafa said when he was asked, what about fashion? What about models? Are the men getting the equal pay as the women when it comes to models? Right? Women are, you take an average woman, she is a lot more beautiful than some of the most beautiful men in the world, right? You take men, the average man is a little stronger and a little faster than the average woman. They hit the ball harder, they run around and have longer, crazier rallies very often. So I think that is the big problem. The fact that they've made this into a political thing. They're always fighting and making it seem like there should be less men's tennis on the center court. They're getting too much attention. They don't want to give them as much broadcast time. And I think it's a big mistake because women's tennis is actually a huge success. And we should be very proud of women's tennis because it's one of the wonderful things about this sport. People love it, whether it is men or women. So let's just put the players that are the most popular on the center court. Let's give them the priority. Let's not worry about whether or not they are men or women. Let's worry about whether or not they sell tickets. That's enough about that. Let's go to tuning into the one for your best living right now. Love is where it's at. Dr. Matt. I don't know what this is. Everybody thinks I'm a doctor. Carlos just lost to Sasha. Wow. Sasha served lights out and was very aggressive. Really took time away from Carlos and both made lots of errors because the other guy was smoking shots across the net. Noli getting more respect as he sails away from the Feda-Nadal trio and record-breaking hysterical gastronomy Carlitos. Good luck, Chefismo. Not a sexismo. I love that. Sabalenka reminds me of Serena at times. That's where I was going with this one. Take a look at this. Sabalenka. I love her. I'm enjoying watching her. Tonight, women's semifinals. I think the real final is Coco and Sabalenka. No disrespect to Yastremska. Remember she did the half black face, half white face thing a few years ago. She got in a lot of trouble for that. What was she thinking? I think the real final is that. I can't remember the Chinese lady, Xi Jinping, something like that. I really like her. She's got a great game, but her serve is very hitchy. Take a look at some of these pictures of her serve. She's basically going into the service motion and opening up like that. I'm sorry, that's not going to cut it against Probably not going to cut it against Coco. Definitely not going to cut it against Sabalenka. I think Sabalenka gets revenge tonight for the U.S. Open, and she destroys whoever she meets in the final. Sabalenka will win again. First woman to reach 6 straight major semifinals since Serena Williams. God bless you, Sabalenka. Enjoy the semifinals tonight. Enjoy the men's semifinals. We will be back after the men's semifinals to talk about everything that we have witnessed down under. See